This is not normal. This is not what we expected. This is not routine or established or ordinary. Our world has changed. Our lives are uncertain. Our hearts are unsettled. What will today look like? What will tomorrow look like? What will next week, next month, next year look like? Our world has changed. And yet the voice of the empty tomb is crying out to us now, "Do not be afraid, I am with you." In the middle of it all, we can rest in this truth. In a world that's shifting and changing, today we celebrate the God whose faithfulness, presence, power, promises, and grace are never changing. In our world that's full of change, this is our declaration and hope. Today we gather to worship the God who is always with us, our rock and our salvation. Hallelujah.
Very soon after receiving the commission to lead the expedition, Meriwether Lewis wrote to an old Army buddy, William Clark, asking him to join him in leading this excursion. And while Clark had actually been Lewis's superior, shall we say, when they first met in 1795, by this time, a decade later, Lewis is preparing for the expedition, and Lewis has been given a captain's commission title. He's up to the level of captain, and Clark has long been out of the military. Okay, so get that relationship going. A couple of good friends. One used to supervise the other one. Now he's out of the military, and the other one has been promoted to captain already. And so, in accordance with military protocol, President Jefferson had chosen Lewis as the sole commander. Lewis knew, however, that he needed an equally capable partner, and even more, one whom he totally trusted. And in a completely, let's just say, unexpected departure from military protocol, Lewis wrote to Clark and asked him to be his co-commander, a partner who would be equal in rank, and he declaring, he says, and I quote, "Your situation, if joined with me in this mission, will in all respects be precisely such as my own." And Clark agreed. However, right before they were to set off and depart on this grand tour across the country, Lewis received word that the War Department had turned down his request to grant Clark a captain's commission. Clark would instead be made a lieutenant. Well, an embarrassed and angered Lewis wrote immediately to Clark, to his friend, assuring him that despite this official pronouncement, they would instead continue to function as equals in every point of view. Okay? Lewis added, I think it will be best to let none of our party or any other persons know anything about the grade. End of quote. And they never did. Indeed, probably only Jefferson and a few people in the War Department knew that Captain Lewis was supposed to be the sole commander of the expedition. as far as the men on the expedition were concerned, they had two commanders, Captains Lewis and Clark. This partnership, forged out of a friendship which was established years prior to this, created the context for building much more than just, got to have a military unit. No, from their first conversation to every action on the trip, they remained solid friends. It was in a letter to Lewis on July 24th, 1803, before they began, Clark reaffirmed that strong friendship by saying, and I quote, "This is an undertaking freighted with difficulties, but, my friend, I do assure you that no man lives with whom I would prefer to undertake such a trip as yourself. My friend, I join you with hand and heart." End of quote. Friendships can emerge, of course, in the midst of adversity, but many times they may not. I think maybe a better way of putting all this would be to say that a strong friendships, maybe they become even more tempered and stronger, even bonded more when the fire is turned up on them. Yeah, we may have run out of water. We may have to get out of our familiar boats. We may be facing a new type of future without maps or signposts, and we may be more than a bit concerned about the mountains in front of us, but as Clark said, there is no one else with whom I'd rather face these challenges. These kinds of, let's say, pre-developed friendships empower people to face the future. I mean, they're out throughout our Bible, really. There are many of them, but none are more obvious than the friendship shared by two women standing on the edge of an unknown new life, a future, a new land, with no husbands and no sons to protect them. One is old. She's the mother-in-law of the younger. And she tells the younger one, "Turn around, just go back. Go back like your other sister-in-law to the place from which you started. Don't trouble yourself with this mountain of trials I have to face." But the younger woman's tearful response is essentially, no, I choose to join you with my hand and heart. More precisely, here's how the story goes in the first chapter of the Old Testament book of Ruth. "Look," said Naomi, "your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. So go back with her." But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. Now, to remind us of this story, this is an Old Testament book entitled Ruth, it begins in dislocation and death. To escape famine, which was taking place in Bethlehem, Elimelech and his wife Naomi and their 2 sons flee to Moab, the land of Israel's bitter enemies. But death pursues them there. Elimelech and the 2 sons die, leaving 3 widows. Now, remember, widows are in peril, for without husband or sons, they're basically without support. Now, Naomi's name in Hebrew means pleasant. But her bitter life belies all pleasantness, and she blames her fate on God. She perceives herself to be utterly alone, without a future, and so this is an embodiment of despair we have in this character. Even as she blames God for her empty life, the name of her daughter-in-law, Ruth, foreshadows a reversal, shall we say, of fate. For Ruth in Hebrew means friend. And here is a friend at the deepest of levels. And notice, it really isn't forged in that moment of them standing on the edge, but you can imagine it's forged through many, many, many other moments shared prior to this. The book repeatedly reminds us of Ruth's, shall we call it, enemy status, because they keep referring to her as Ruth the Moabite. Oh, those enemies over there, the Moabites. Oh, she's one of them. Yeah. And so when facing this decisive, really mountainous decision, Ruth the Moabite, the enemy, leaves her own people for the sake of her mother-in-law. She will go with, she will lodge with, and she will be buried with Naomi. She will die in the same place and will take Naomi's people and Naomi's God to be her people and now her God. And this vow she seals with a formal oath, saying, while she's calling upon God to punish her and more, if even death parts me from you. Now, in the ancient world, tribal and family origins firmly fixed one's identity and one's gods, and people did not voluntarily abdicate them. Yet Ruth abandons her homeland and people and family and risks her life with these people who consider them the enemies, risks her entire future. Why in the world does Ruth put herself in such a position? Well, it's what deep friends do. In this story, do you hear what's going on? The one who is the outsider, the lowly, the widow, the stranger, the enemy, becomes the faithful friend. Now, the rest of the story unfolds, and by the end, we learn that Ruth the Moabite ends up becoming the ancestress of King David himself. Follow the family tree, and you'll see that she's listed there. Begetting who, begetting who, begetting who. And there's King David, who came because of her. Which also means that Ruth has also become an ancestor and foremother of Jesus himself. This means that, does it not, that God does not belong just to one set of people alone, but rather claims heritage with people from other nations, from other tribes, even from the enemies of Israel, from the ones who are often excluded in their midst, and they are included as part of God's family tree. So, who are those who have befriended you? Remember, I asked you to think of those at the beginning here. Who have gone with you into those foreign places, who have refused to abandon you in your times of need? Who in your life have put aside their comfort, their time, maybe even their dreams for yours? Who have dared not to run away from your unpleasantness, but have accompanied you in and through it? Was their name Ruth? Was their name Friend? I imagine so. Activist and educator Margaret Wheatley writes, "It is possible to prepare for the future without knowing what it will be. The primary way to prepare for the unknown is to attend to the quality of our relationships, to how well we know and trust one another." And from her book, Restoring Sanity, Wheatley adds, and I quote again, "Sane leadership is the unshakable faith in people's capacity to be generous, creative, and kind. It is the commitment to create the conditions for which these capacities will blossom, protected from all the external environment. It is the deep knowing that even in the direst of circumstances, more becomes possible as people engage together with compassion and discernment, self-determining the way forward." End of quote. Wow. You know, I remember when I, on my journey, received a phone call from my then district superintendent asking me to consider leaving my very first appointment in Delano in order to plant a new church in the way off foreign land of Big Lake, Minnesota. Now, the call came while we were visiting our eldest son at college in Duluth, and it sounded kind of exciting, kind of scary at the same time. Okay, I knew no one in Big Lake or any of the surrounding areas. There was no one there from a pre-existing church, shall we say. No one is there yet to welcome me in, to show me around, let alone to just even talk to me. And then you start thinking, oh, I'm going to have to uproot everything. I have to just sell our beautiful house. I have to say goodbye to all the people, dear people that were at the current church. And it was all about having to start over again. And what would my wife say or want to do? Oh yeah, that was a big one in my mind. I quite honestly could not wait to say farewell to our son so we could get in the car and talk about it. Okay? Now, it didn't take very long. She knew I got a call, and I sort of started out a little hesitantly, and I was afraid. I was afraid. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know how this would be received. And maybe I should just forget it. Maybe I shouldn't go there. Well, he said, yada, 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 and I told her. And practically before I could draw another breath, she was on board. Actually, she was more than just supportive. I mean, I think she was more excited than I was, quite honestly. My wife's absolute commitment to go where I was being asked to go and to help do what I was being asked to do was more than I expected or even dreamed. Janet is my wife. Janet was my church planting co-captain. And we did that for 7 years together. And oh man, we had to face a lot of things. We had to face a lot of struggles together. We confronted our fears, lots of fears. Together, we tried a great many new things, which often, well, failed, some would say, but we did it together. We were navigating a land and a ministry which were totally foreign to us. Together, in sincere honesty, those are probably the best years of my ministry. Not because they were easy or always successful, but because we were doing it together. There was no other person I would want by my side through it all than her. My friend, I join you with hand and heart. Thank you. In uncharted territory, trust is essential as the air we breathe. If trust is lost, the journey is over because it's hard to keep moving forward. You can, but you're not going to move as well. So let's not take for granted the fact that the strength of this community, of Good Samaritan United Methodist Church, are, wow, lots of deep friendships already. They're here, they exist for so many people. So I encourage you to continue to grow and nurture these friendships. Go to even deeper and deeper levels these days. Consequently, the openness and the care and the friendships, they create a spirit about this place, which new people coming in can sense. The spirit is right here, and we want to be a part of it. And so along with nurturing the ones you have such deep friendships, you got to remember that God's family is always opening up, and we do have to be open to the ever-growing family of God in our midst as well. It will take all of us to move forward together. I believe we're ready. I believe we're ready because of the friendships and the trust which are so deep here. I believe we are ready because we want this place, this Good Samaritan United Methodist Church, to be a home for all, including the outsider, the lowly, the widow, the stranger, the people of Aldersgate United Methodist. I believe we are ready because God is calling us forward, and we can face whatever mountains loom before us together. My friends, I join you with hand and heart, and I ask you to do the same.